And now I need to see how to share because, oh, here you go. Okay. Do you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. So yeah, so don't pay attention to the circle of influence. This is what I teach at the temple, at Hare Krishna temple. So the Sangha is called Circle of Influence. And basically, what we are going to learn today is that there are spiritual solutions for all life problems. And these spiritual solutions presented to us in the form of Vedic wisdom. Vedic wisdom, the essence of Vedic wisdom is Bhagavad Gita as it is. And Bhagavad Gita as it is considered as, I would say, a bachelor's degree in spiritual science. And after that, or along with that, you can study Srimad Bhagavatam, but we won't be speaking about it today. Just to know the difference, Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord, and Srimad Bhagavatam is about the Lord and his pastimes, and about his devotees, and about the cosmology, astrology, medical science, all kind of sciences that exist. And basically, it covers all of the aspects of life and gives all of the answers to any questions and doubts a human being may have. All right, so let's move on. And my name is Vrajalalana, so you can see that on this what is it called slide. I'm 15 years with ISKCON. I'm an ISKCON devotee, and Vrajalalana is my spiritual name given to me by my spiritual teacher. Professionally, I'm a Vedic astrologer and transformational life coach. And what I do, I train people in both spiritual science and psychology and astrology. Plus, I facilitate some workshops, and I create those workshops myself, like this one. Okay, so let's move on. So this presentation will allow you to understand how the quality of consciousness, and consciousness is what actually governs our life, is what we think about ourselves, what we feel, what kind of decisions we make, right? How this consciousness affects our life and relationships. And this presentation will also help you to understand the nature of habits and emotions, attachments, right? The nature of circumstances, things that happen to us, and the ways to transform your life. Oops, sorry, just a sec, let me go back. Yes, to transform your life through the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Also, Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to be ourselves. You would ask, who are we? Who we are, right? If we're not ourselves, but you will know that we can think of ourselves so many things, which is not true about ourselves. So Bhagavad Gita actually is a path to understand ourselves the way we are. All right, so let's move on. So the contents of this presentation, emotions and their role in life, they're very important because our feelings and our senses, they belong to the Lord. They don't belong to us, okay? And Bhagavad Gita explains how it's impossible to purify the senses, because if the person is governed by the senses, he becomes agitated and he becomes, I would say, from the psychological perspective, depressed, anxious, greedy, angry, and etc., right? But from spiritual perspective, those emotions can block ourselves from spiritual self-realization. So therefore, it's very important to understand the emotions and their role in our life and the spiritual aspect of our emotions. The mechanism of karma and how these emotions play a role in the karma. Bhagavad Gita explains fully the process of karma, how it is created, and how we can get out of it. Then the nature of false ego. Are you familiar with this term, false ego?
No.
No, right? So false speaks for itself, right? False means something which is not true, and ego is I am. So false ego means things that I'm thinking about myself that are not true. So I may think I'm a doctor, I am a teacher, I am a woman, I am this and that, I'm Vrajalalana, right? But does it explain my nature? Does it? No, it doesn't, right? So Bhagavad Gita actually explains the nature of the false ego and how to be again yourself, how to be in your true self. And also we will, through this presentation, we'll know what works and what doesn't. And then at the end, you will have a chance to ask your questions and share your realizations. All right, so let's begin with emotions. Emotions and their role in our life. So all of the problems that we have in life, they don't come from what happens. So people blame circumstances, people blame like other people, right? But it's not because of this. What actually bothers us is our reaction to the event. So that's the beginning of any, I would say, problem in our life. And how does the Lord speak about it in Bhagavad Gita? And you will see the correlation. So how it's practical, to understand Bhagavad Gita. So in chapter 1, text 27, when the Lord is talking to Arjuna, he says, when the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all this different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. So this verse is about the feelings that Arjuna is feeling, right, when he has to fight to his relatives. Does everyone know the story of Mahabharata story? How that Bhagavad Gita actually was spoken?
I think we have like a brief understanding of it,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
yeah. So, how to say? So big Bharata, right? It was the war on the whole planet, Mahabharata. And the war actually started because of the offenses that were committed by Kauravas towards a pure devotee who Draupadi, right? Who is the wife of Pandavas. Therefore, Arjuna, as a warrior, he had to protect the law. He had to protect the how to say the morale, right? And it's his duty to fight with the offenders. But unfortunately, those offenders are his relatives, and these offenders are his brothers and teachers. Therefore, on the battlefield, which is called Kurukshetra, he's seeing all those grades of friends and relatives. Can you imagine? And he has to fight with them, he has to kill them. And of course, he's overwhelmed with compassion and that spokes. So here, Krishna, we see what kind of feelings do you think Arjuna is experiencing in this
Um,
context? Hmm?
he's probably feeling like sad and scared because he probably doesn't want to kill all his family members and friends.
Yeah, so the emotion you're saying it's sadness, right? Okay, so let's see. Yes. So reaction that he's reacting, right? I wouldn't say like depression, but he's almost depressed. Depressed, it means it's already a consequence, right? But weakness and pain of loss,
Mhm.
right? Because he's not ready to lose his relatives. He's not ready to admit that they won't exist after this fight. So this is the emotions. The next verse, Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me, in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. So, what kind of emotions Arjuna is sharing here?
Mm, mm. Fear.
Fear. Okay.
Um,
So, limbs of my body quivering, it's fear, and my mouth is drying up.
Maybe some regret for Yeah. what's gonna happen.
Yeah, regret, right. Loss and hopelessness. Yeah, but it comes from the fear. He's lost and he feels hopeless. Yeah, so he doesn't know what to do, and that's why he's feeling this way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. My whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on my hand, and my Balgandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. So, what kind of emotions he's talking about here?
Like scared.
Scared. Yes.
Yeah.
So, fear, right? Another type of kind of fear. Yeah. So, let's see. Yes, you're right. It's fear. Absolutely. Okay. And that's a big verse, number 32 to 35. O Govinda, of what avail to us is a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield, right? So he says that he loves them so much and now he has to fight against them. O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to fight up their lives and properties and are standing before me. Why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? So it's natural, right? For a relative, for a loving son or loving brother, maybe just to be humble, just to, let it go, forget about it. Just, be a happy family. That's it, no matter what happened in the past. So he's showing this. All maintainer of all living entities, I'm not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds. Let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? So he's saying, I'm not ready. Yes. So what kind of feelings do you think he's sharing here?
He's nervous.
Nervous, yes.
Compassion too, because he doesn't want to kill.
Compassion, yes. Compassion. I would say love, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's very
Yeah. So fear of failure, right? Because again, what happens? Like we're gonna fight and it won't give us any satisfaction. Doesn't matter, right? Why don't we just let it go and that's it? Meaninglessness. It doesn't make any sense to him. And like a dead end, he is stuck in that situation as if he has no choice. And of course, sadness, right? He's not ready to, again, to fulfill his duty because it's a very, very emotionally traumatic situation to kill his own relatives, those whom he loved, from whom he learned, who are authorities for him, and like just overall, it's a family members. So these are the feelings that Arjuna is experiencing, and Bhagavad Gita covers them because we also may get in critical situations. And just tell me, how often would you think, or how common it is that we would feel dead end or sadness, or we're afraid to fail, right? Or we may feel that it's better to let it go instead of, go and fight or just figure things out. So it's very common, which it's just not that critical for us as it was for Arjuna. So this is a good example of the emotions that come and play, so that appear when like materially critical situations happen and there is no solution to them. Can you see a solution here in this situation?
No.
No, yeah. So there is no solution. So that's why we're speaking about spiritual solutions, because some situations, they cannot be resolved on material level. Like they tried to talk to them, they tried to make peace. Lord Krishna tried multiple times to approach Duryodhana and to make peace with him, but it was not possible. Therefore, there is no common solution. Okay. And now Sanjaya said, there is another verse, Arjuna, having thus spoken to the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on a chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. And what kind of emotion here? It speaks for itself.
Yeah, grief.
Grief, yeah, let's see. So the reaction is not to act based on the feelings of grief, powerlessness, disappointment, hopelessness, and loss. Yeah, so that's basically what he feels. Okay, so now we're going to do a quick exercise. It will be an interactive presentation. Let's give you examples of emotions and that can be obstacles for taking responsibility, making decisions, like respecting, understanding, and loving others. What would be your examples? What would that be? Like what kind of maybe emotions or the situations that can be obstacles? Like let's say anger can it be an obstacle?
Yeah.
For taking responsibility, right? Yes. Or what else? Fear, for example. I'm afraid, right? So like you have to give a presentation and but the fear doesn't allow. What else? Fear of failure, right? I can't do that. Things like that.
Like
Yes.
fear of loss.
Yes, fear of loss. Yeah, what if I say and I will lose a friend, right? What if I tell the truth? What's going to happen? Things like this. Yeah, and things might be misunderstood and could be taken as disrespect or things like this. So it's very important to be aware of this and take this into consideration. So Bhagavad Gita teaches us, first of all, emotional intelligence. And we have um, like emotional intelligence on the level of our life, and there is also spiritually emotional intelligence. So there's spiritual emotions, right? So Bhagavad Gita will be teaching how to realize ourselves on both level and how to use them in our daily life. Okay, let's go. And now we'll talk about the mechanism of karma. So emotions are very important in creating the mechanism of karma. Have you heard of mechanism of karma before? Oh, it's your first time. No, your first time? Okay. So any situation, probably you know what karma is, right? It's an action and then it causes the reaction. But then that reaction is created through a circle of interactions. So for example, there is an event that causes a reaction, can be any event. Something happened and people or person reacts. From this reaction, a person does what? He acts, right? And from that action, he receives a result. So that result causes the same reaction. And that's how the karma is created. So the initial first step in the karma is the event that created the reaction. Then later on, if that event repeats itself, it becomes a deep-rooted program that may trigger a person. So if the event is positive, right, then the person is very strong, he has good boundaries, he believes in himself, and it's a good program, positive program, right? It's a positive, it's a good karma. We call it good karma. The person is self-confident, good, everything works well. If it's a negative event, like for example, the person was in a life-threatening situation and he didn't manage it well, and he acted in a way that maybe, I don't know, other people suffered too, right? And the result was not good. So he reacted, oh, it's my guilt, like I am guilty, it's because of me, right? So then if similar event happens in the future, something like this, right? Then it will trigger that memory. And the action and the result and reaction will repeat itself. So that's how it works. So this is a program, and it's a karma mechanism, which also described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3 and chapter 5. We will be speaking already about karma yoga, how to transform that karma from the material into the spiritual, and then finally how to live life, karma-free life, which is happiness. Yeah. All right, so, and we're gonna also talk about some skaras. So that result, which is created by karma, action, reaction, right? And then result, which causes the same reaction, creates an impression. I'm familiar with this term. What impression is, do you know? So impression, if we are talking about the mind, right? We have subconscious and we have conscious. So our consciousness, what we know. Our subconsciousness is the impressions that we accumulate as a reaction to different events. So for example, if you are looking at something for the first time, there is no impression, right? But that first time creates an impression. If it's a positive impression, you would like to repeat it. If it's a negative impression, you say, oh no, I don't want it anymore, right? Yes. So that happens. Now, if an action repeated again and again, that impression becomes a samskara, it becomes deep-rooted program. So Bhagavad Gita speaks about samskaras, right? And those samskaras, it's a program in our subconscious. So when Krishna, the Lord will be speaking about Bhagavad Gita, about the mind, right? We will understand that we're talking about our subconscious, okay? And a conclusion. So samskara is a conclusion about yourself, life, relationships, and God. Why is it so? Because when a situation happens, right, it gives a result and it creates an impression, we think something about it. Like if it's something good, we say, oh, life is good. This person is nice. I'm a good person, right? Or if something negative happens, we say, oh, it's not fair. It shouldn't happen, right? Therefore, it is a conclusion. And then it becomes a life pattern. Have you heard of this term before? Life pattern. No, right? So life pattern means kind of, consciousness, the way the person thinks, the way the logic works, right? And everybody had their own vision. So when we're talking about points of view, these are the life patterns. So one person may look at the event, like at the dog, for example, and say, oh, such a nice dog. But another person may say, oh, it's a dangerous dog. Why? Because one life pattern says, oh, dogs are good. But another life pattern may say, oh, that like a dog in the past, I was hurt by the dog, right? Therefore, it's not a good thing. Therefore, yeah, it becomes a life pattern which depends on the impression. Yeah, so it can be positive and it can be negative. Some scars, they can be positive and negative as programs. Okay, and let's see. Let's give examples. Like we can work as a group, right? What kind of positive and negative? Some scars you may know.
Trust
Like, what is it?
trust issues.
Yeah, so for example, samskara, yeah, event, somebody betrayed, for example, or lied, right? And then you can say, I cannot trust this person anymore. So it is a conclusion about relationships, and it is a conclusion about myself, right? Yes. Any other examples? Like life, for example. Any conclusions about life?
Success.
Yeah, success. Yeah. So you've been doing something multiple times, right? And you've been successful. So there is a nice positive samskara, I can do it, and it will be success. What if person didn't manage? Like imagine there is a teacher uh, who doesn't accept the person's maybe uniqueness and says, no, you fail.
Yeah.
And then the person thinks, I'm so weak, I cannot do it, right?
Mhm.
So they may think, oh, my life is ruined. My education is like, I'm not a good student and I'm not successful. So that's another conclusion, right? And it is a negative samskara. So, and there can be many, many examples that you can pay attention to when you talk to people and you ask for their opinion. So their opinion will be their samskaras. Okay. And now we're talking about material samskaras created by situations, different situations in life related to work, relationship, money. So now let's talk about nature of the false ego. What is the false ego? The negative samskaras, they're actually false. So if the person is not successful in some areas, right? Because of lack of knowledge, because of lack of practice or something else, maybe health. And the person may think, oh, I am not good enough. Do you think it's true?
No.
No, right. Or the person can be very talented, but because he was said multiple times, no, you're not. Oh, it's nothing. No, it's not enough. The person may think, oh, my talents is just something not so important, right? So this is also false. So all negative samskaras are actually false, and they create false ego. And then that false ego can represent itself, right? And internally, it says, I am weak. But externally, what it may say, I'm the best of the best. Or, it is a protection. So people who think low about themselves on the surface, they may do what? Exaggerate their kind of, power, saying, oh, I'm so great, I'm so cool, right? So this is false ego. So based on the false ego, person builds what? False relationships. And for example, if I'm thinking I'm God, I don't need any God. Yeah, I can rule myself. Yeah, I have money because of me, actually, You heard people saying like this, right? It's not that somebody's helping me, we are living in the universe and it's all connection, right? No, they may say it's because of me. So that based on a false ego. And that's why the person builds false relationships with the Lord himself because of this, and gets into false relationships with other people because he may represent himself. Yes, I can do that while he cannot, for example. Or no, I cannot do that while he can actually. So things like that, right? And moreover, false ego is self-identification with a role. I'm acting like this because I'm a mother. I cannot act like this because I'm a woman, right? So things like this. So it's a self-identification with something which is maybe temporary, that will change, and that's not about me. So based on the false ego, person builds false relationships and get illusory results. So for example, money can make me happy. Money is a good way, right? It's a resource, but it's not happiness itself. So money itself cannot make someone happy. Or like negative samskaras, they also generate false logic. Like, do you have any examples like a false logic?
Mm,
If something if someone is giving you like a bad look, what would you think? The person may not like me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So depending on the samskara, some people may think a person may not like me. Some people may not pay attention. Some people may think, oh, probably the person doesn't feel good. Okay. So everyone will have their own logic based on their experience, not based on the reality, on how things are actually, Therefore, samskara, especially negative, they generate false logic. Okay. An example. For example, right, samskara, I'm lonely. It's a false ego or negative samskara. The person thinks I'm lonely. Okay. I will be happy if I'll get into the relationship. Is it true? If the person is lonely internally, it's the state of mind and feeling, right? Will the person be happy in a relationship? No, he will feel the same, lonely. Yeah, so this is based, the false ego gives a false self-perception. It's an illusion based on false ego. So that's how it works. And Bhagavad Gita will be showing where is the false ego and where is the true ego. And therefore, Krishna in chapter 2 starts talking to Arjuna. He gives him that solution. You are not, like when he's scared, that his fear is material because he has to perform his duty, okay? And there is nothing wrong with protecting the truth. And he is a warrior, right? But his feelings, they are based on his false ego because he doesn't understand who he is actually. And so Krishna gives him the knowledge that he is a spirit soul. And this is the first thing, who I am. I'm a spirit soul, okay? Okay, let's move on. So how does Krishna address that issue with Arjuna? And this is chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, text 2. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? And so Krishna, speaking about Arjuna's feelings, he called them impurities because those feelings are not pure. They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. So Krishna shows him that he is not thinking clearly. And then chapter 2, text number 3, O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading importance. So he's explaining those feelings will help you to degrade. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. So he addresses the issue. He starts talking. So you need to purify yourself. This is the path of this illusion. Okay. In order to get out of negative samskaras, we need to purify ourselves. And then the whole Bhagavad Gita will be, like it is a path of our sense purification and our self purification. And why do you think we need that purification? Any ideas? How do impure senses act? What kind of emotions do they generate?
They kind of like cloud your um
Thinking, right?
like you're thinking, your perception on things.
Exactly. Yeah, they create like a cloudy mind. They are blocking our understanding, right? Or what else do they do? The mind. What can the mind do with impure senses? It can let us down. It's gonna tell us different things which are not like which don't make us happy, right? So they can be greed, they can be anger, they can be anxiety, they can be fear of loss and different, negative emotions. So therefore, all these emotions, they are about impurities, and therefore Krishna is saying this as not good for you. You need to purify yourself. And what are the steps of purification? Who knows?
Chanting.
Chanting, yes, and that's why it's called mantra. Yes, man means mind, tra, purification. So this is the way to purify our mind, and the mind is our subconscious. And our subconscious has all of the memories, all of the negative samskaras, right? And attachments to other material things where we think, oh, if I don't have it, I'm gonna like I cannot leave, right? Without certain things. So yeah, so the mantra, Maha Mantra, is given to us to purify our mind. What else? Knowledge, right? Bhagavad Gita knowledge. So how can we act properly? How can we protect ourselves? How can we be intelligent without knowledge if we don't know? We can't. We can't even build relationships without knowledge. We don't know how to communicate without knowledge, right? How to resolve conflicts, how to make agreements, how to work. Like we need knowledge. So this is the highest knowledge. Therefore, yeah, so we need purification through the knowledge and Maha Mantra, and there are other things that also recommended in Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures, which is called devotional service. So Maha Mantra and reading Bhagavad Gita and learning, studying Bhagavad Gita, this is the essence of devotional service, that we engage ourselves on a daily basis in order to develop positive samskaras of eternal happiness, not just for this life, eternal, because this samskaras are going to stay with us forever. Like samskaras for money, samskaras for, I don't know, studies, like, and school, all of this, right? They are here and they're gone with the death of the body. But positive spiritual samskaras, they're going to stay with us forever. And they're going to protect us wherever we are, because this is the main support that we need in any situation. So yeah, that's about it. And let's move on. So there are material and spiritual samskaras. Samskaras, as we've learned, right, are created through emotions. Material samskaras, they are related to our material relationships. So it can be friends, right? It can be marriage, it can be job, it can be money, shopping, satisfying bodily needs. All of this creates material samskaras. Samskaras, I will remind you, these are impressions, and those impressions are left through the repetition of the same thing again and again. So if we go to work, it's a samskara. It becomes a program. I cannot live without work. I have to work, etc. Right? Or we make money and we buy food for money. It is a samskara. So we think without money, I cannot survive. And or like relationships, also positive relationships create positive samskaras. Negative relationships, I'm afraid of relationship, people say, right? People may say, because they have negative samskaras, or I don't trust anyone, it is a negative samskara. It means that the person went through betrayal or, like losses in relationships multiple times. Now, spiritual emotions, they're related to, so spiritual emotions, they create spiritual samskaras. And they are related. What kind of practice creates spiritual emotions? Reading wisdom books, chanting Maha Mantra, so Maha Mantra meditation. Gradually and slowly at the beginning, we may not feel it, right? Because material samskaras are very strong, and spiritual samskaras can be not so deep, like they're not so strong. But again, if we repeat them multiple times, what's going to happen? They become strong and deep, like deep spiritual programs, right? And that's how we become very spiritualized. And that purity gives constant, stable happiness, because the mind becomes stabilized by this process. So what else creates spiritual samskaras? Eating prasadam, for example, right? Or going to the temple, or doing services at the temple, chanting Maha Mantra. So all of this, associating with devotees, like talking to devotees, because they're full of spiritual samskaras and they radiate that energy. So that all gives the impression. So these samskaras become programs, and they generate similar emotions and attachments. Depending on what kind of samskaras we have, those attachments we're going to have. And If these attachments are spiritual, so spiritual attachments don't create fear, anxiety, depression. They don't. They're free of this because it's pure, right? Material samskaras, material attachments, they create fear of loss. Fear of loss create anxiety. Anxiety, if not treated properly, create depression. Depression create different, chronic diseases, and the person is no longer happy in life. So that taking this in mind, samskaras are very important, and we need to be aware of the nature of the samskaras, and we need to be very careful on what kind of experiences we're allowing ourselves, because this is going to create a samskara. Whatever we do, whatever we hear, whatever we eat is going to create a samskara. Whatever we talk, whatever we say, right? So that gives us ability to be self-aware. If you have any questions, you can ask. Is everything clear? Yes? Okay, cool. Is it
Yes.
interesting for you? Is it interesting? Yes? Okay, cool. All right, so Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to free ourselves from false self-identifications. In other words, from, negative samskaras for sure, and also how to create positive and spiritual samskaras. Because just reading Bhagavad Gita will, rewire our brain, create those, neuron connections based on the knowledge that Bhagavad Gita gives. And Sanskrit is the language of images. Our brain thinks in images, feels in images, and create circumstances based on our samskaras. Okay, therefore, if we have spiritual samskaras, the life will be protecting us right away. Okay, if we have more material samskaras, not speaking about negative are already dangerous, but just material samskaras, right? It's already a danger for us, because if we lose something material again, if we get into trouble with this, like lots of money, lots of job, what's going to happen? The person is depressed, anxious, and sick, right? So, okay, let's see. Now, samskaras are created in the mind. Here I will fix and live in the mind. Like live, they exist there, okay? So the mind represents our subconscious, and the mind makes us either happy or depressed. So we know this, right? It's in our subconscious. Bhagavad Gita, as it is, teaches us how to purify the mind and how to make it our friend, because a mind can be what else? It can be our enemy, and it is spoken in Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, text 5 and 7, where Krishna tells us one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. So now question to you. Do you think it's possible to control your subconscious? No, right? So subconscious knows how to make our heart beat, right? Subconscious regulates our body temperature. Subconscious gives us emotional reactions. Subconscious generates attachments. We cannot, by the power of will, we cannot stop it. We cannot change it, right? But what can we do actually? We can choose what kind of programs to create. We can choose what kind of samskaras to create. We can choose what kind of samskaras to create and what samskaras not to support. Like, for example, if somebody is managing their anger, do they need to, like, what will help them if they are more in contact with aggressive people or with peaceful people?
Peaceful people.
Of course, yeah, because they will not be supporting the samskara of anger, right? Yeah, so this is what is in our control. So the mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So when the mind is the friend, what do you think? When the mind can be a friend, what kind of mind is a friend?
One that like encourages you, like one like that.
Yeah, the one that encourages.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, you decided to chant Mahamantra, and the mind is telling you, oh, let's watch a movie first.
Mhm.
Is it a friend?
No.
No, it's an enemy, right? Yeah, so the mind, which is a friend, will say, oh, yeah, cool, let's do it. Yeah. So the mind which has spiritual samskaras will tell you, yes, that's right, I'll support you in this. Okay. The mind that doesn't have spiritual samskaras will say, no, 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 Mahamantra is so boring. Come on, don't do it. So in order to make our mind our friend, we need to create those samskaras. So the mind overall, it's a big program that we can reprogram the way we want it to work. And it's going to work for us or against us. Now, for him who has conquered the mind, and how we can conquer the mind by creating those spiritual samskaras, purify the senses, right? The mind is the best friend. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So Krishna tells us. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. Do you know what super soul is?
No.
Yeah. So people feel lonely, right? They say, oh, I need someone, I need a friend, I need a spouse, I need a coworker or something like that, right? Why? Because they are disconnected with their inner super soul. Actually, in reality, the Lord is accompanying us everywhere, all the time, in the form of a super soul. So we have our individual soul, right? Which is small, it's a part and parcel of the Lord. And there is a big super soul, which remembers everything about our past, future. It knows, right? He knows, super soul knows. And he is sitting next to the soul and observing the actions, activities of the individual soul. So individual soul is forgetful. We may do something 5 years ago at the same time as now, and we don't remember about it now. What did I do 5 years ago, the same date, the same time? I don't remember. What did you do when you were 1 month old on Friday and etc. that day and that time? Oh my God, no, I don't remember. I don't even remember what I did 2 days ago at the same time. So individual souls, they are very forgetful, while super soul remembers everything. And from the super soul, we take intuition, we take like the consciousness, right? What's right, what's wrong. So that's is from super soul. Super soul also approves actions and disapproves. If something doesn't happen, so probably super soul doesn't want us to do this. Or for example, if we are acting in a certain way, it makes that inner happiness, right? And comfort and harmony internally, it means that the super soul is happy with our action. If we feel sad somehow, but we don't know why, right? But something is wrong. So it means that we need to learn a lesson in that situation. We need to dig into it and see how else we can do it. What can we do better? So the super soul is already reached means that the individual soul recognizes himself or herself, right? I'm a soul, I'm a spirit soul, and I'm connected with the super soul, and I'm a part of the supreme. So therefore, for one who has conquered the mind, meaning when the mind is pure, this is what's going to happen to us. Imagine. That's such a great connection. It's such a great reconnection with the Lord, right? And such a person is never lonely. He feels always protected because he knows that the Lord is accompanying me no matter where I am. Whether I'm born or I'm dying, he's always with me. I'm never alone, right? So, and from this comes what happiness and comes what else? Fearlessness. So these people, they become really strong and fearless and to the point and very honest. They're not afraid. They're not afraid of anything. So there's a cool people. So those who conquered their mind. And for he has attained tranquility. So what is tranquility? We live in a world of duality, right? So when it's night, we feel like we see darkness. When it's a day, we see the light. So light and darkness, or there is cold and heat. There is happiness and distress, right? So for them, they're no longer triggered by that. If they're loved or not loved, if they're accepted or not accepted, if somebody leaves them or they come back, they're not triggered anymore because they are content within themselves through their pure mind that actually gives them that opportunity. So if the mind is pure and conquered by spiritual samskaras and by devotional service, this is the best, the highest level of happiness that actually exists. Okay? And that's why it's so important to make this mind, because he's so powerful, he can either degrade the soul to the hellish planets or elevate the soul back to Godhead. So it's better to make friends with him. We know how now, right? Okay, let's go. Let's move on. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives the knowledge about the eternity of the soul. So we are eternal. And, when I first read Bhagavad Gita, I couldn't even imagine that I was never born and I will never die. Can you imagine? And I'm eternal. Wow. I'm like, really? And all these trees and all these people, they're eternal. So why are we afraid? Because it's a false ego. We don't know about it, right? We're afraid of so many things. So, and the soul is eternal and the body is perishable. So Bhagavad Gita explains this. And this is such a great knowledge, especially for, people who are old, right? And who are ready to go. So this knowledge is actually gives them that fearlessness and happiness at the end of their life. Yeah. So Krishna explains that the body is an instrument for fulfilling one's life mission. So we have material nature and we have spiritual nature, right? Both those material and spiritual energies, they're energies of the Lord. When we understand that everything belongs to the Lord, my body belongs, all those 5 elements that my body consists of, everything belongs to the Lord. So what am I losing? What am I missing? Nothing. All I need to know is how to use this nature. And Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita how to apply your talents, how to apply your nature in the best way to be happy. So that's another thing. Therefore, how the body should be used for the benefit of the soul, because soul is, how to say, so the body is secondary, right? And the soul is, I forgot this word, the opposite, like what goes first. Forgot this word. Yeah. So, do you know what I'm talking about? Can you remind me?
Primary, like
Primary, exactly. Yeah, the soul is primary and the body is secondary. That's right. Yeah. Yes. And based on this, how can we build the relationships with others? So we understand that we are soul and the soul is primary. What kind of care can we give to others? What kind of understanding? Can you imagine? When the person misbehaves, for example, and shows material emotions such as anger, attachment, anxiety, fear, you understand that this person is a soul, right? Will you be frightened by the emotions that the person is showing? No. So we become immune right away because we can see who is this actually, who the person, it's a soul, first of all. And the rest, he's just not aware that of his identity or her identity, okay? So the relationships, they become more caring, more close, okay? All right. And this can be done only when one's consciousness, of course, is free from false self-identification. Of course, if we think something else about ourselves, then it becomes an obstacle, right? So therefore, we're engaging ourselves in the process of self-purification through learning Bhagavad Gita and through chanting of Maha Mantra. In other words, what we do, we create a new cycle of an event that we are creating here, learning Bhagavad Gita, chanting together. That we will be doing next time, okay? That will give us, of course, a positive samskara and reaction. And further action, because once we have a reaction, then that motivates to continue the same, and it's going to be a new samskara, and it's a new beginning, which reconnects, in the future will reconnect us with our true selves through the process of bhakti yoga. So bhakti yoga is the whole process of devotional service. Bhakti means pure love, and yoga means reconnection. When soul is connected to the, in knowledge and in relationship with the Supreme, it's called yoga. So we'll be perfect yogis, hopefully. All right. Okay, let's move on. So what works, what doesn't? You're not tired? So we're ending soon. You're good?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good? Okay. So we cannot change our consciousness by simply deciding to do so, right? Have you tried? Don't wish. You want a sweet? Don't wish. Can you do this? No, you can't, right? We cannot. Yeah, we cannot get rid of feelings and impressions just by desire or willpower. Like people may say, don't bother. Oh my God, why are you so upset? Yeah, we've heard this multiple times, right? So, but we cannot. It's just we need to accept this. We cannot. So this imitation, if we say, oh yes, for sure, I forgot. Oh yes, yes, I let it go, while we don't actually in the reality, right? This imitation is a lie to yourself, and it doesn't give good results. So we're not doing this. And Krishna also speaks about it. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So we are not planning to pretend, right? We're going to accept. This is what we feel. This is how it feels. This is how it is. Okay. The process of purification will do its thing. So by creating the spiritual samskara, right, the old samskara again will become just weaker. And that's how new habits are created. We don't need to bother ourselves that something undesirable is there. All we need is to focus on the right practice. Okay, how to make the change possible. And Krishna speaks further. And the third chapter speaks about karma yoga. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga, so karma and Krishna consciousness, I will be explaining how when we get to this third chapter, without attachment. Attachment means that I understand that everything belongs to the Lord. I'm not trying to make it my own, right? I'm just trying for now. And he is by far superior. So even by trying to do this, you're already elevating yourself, okay? Perform your prescribed duties, for doing so is better than not working. So people may say, oh, it's inconvenient, I'm afraid, I don't want to do this, like Arjuna, right? And on the example of Arjuna, Krishna says, perform your prescribed duty. For doing so, it is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. Okay. Then 3.9, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. This is very, very important thing. How to make karma spiritualized. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu, meaning that when I'm performing my work, I'm doing it for the satisfaction of the Lord. Just imagine that Krishna is behind you and you're listening to this presentation. And you're saying, dear Lord, I'm listening this for you, not for myself, just to make you happy, because you desire so. You want me to know about you. You want me to understand you. And that's why I'm doing this. So that becomes a karma-free activity because it becomes spiritualized. You are sacrificing it, like you are offering it to the Lord, right? Otherwise, work causes bondage in the material world. And how can work cause bondage? Can you give me an example? Like you are in a university or college, right? All of you students, right? Yes. So you probably are doing a lot of work for your studies. Yes? Yeah.
Yes.
So if that work doesn't give you good result, how do you feel?
Upset, like,
Upset.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Because yes, otherwise work causes in this material world, it becomes a bondage. So this emotion represents bondage.
Mhm.
Okay. If you offer it to the Lord, you're going to say, I'm doing this for your satisfaction. Please engage me in your service because for this, I'm going to serve you in the future. If you want me to succeed, I'll do my best. Please allow. If you don't want me to succeed, I'll accept it.
Mhm.
And then think how the emotion will change. You know? Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and we will learn this moving forward. So that's an action of freedom from karma. Okay. Therefore, son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. And in that way, you will always remain free from bondage. Yeah. So Krishna gives all of the answers to any situation. And throughout Bhagavad Gita, you will understand how to use it in your daily life. So conclusion, we need to give up unhealthy attachments, right? That create a lot of negative emotions for us. First of all, on the mental and emotional levels by choosing to live differently. So how can we do it on the mental level? We decide, okay, starting from tomorrow, I'm going to do this, this, and this, right? First of all, it's a decision. And we need to engage our minds into the process of self-elevation and purification to create new spiritual habits and programs. So first, it's a decision, I'm going to change this, I'm going to do this, right? It's a determination. That's my plan. And second, engage yourself into that plan. That's it. This is the process. All right, and the entire Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's highest level of psychological and spiritual coaching for Arjuna and all of us. How to get out of limiting and illusory state of consciousness into love, acceptance, strength, fulfillment, and happy relationships. So that's overall about Bhagavad Gita. Now, if you have any questions or if you want to share any realizations, what you've learned from this presentation, maybe what are you taking with you?
I think I realized like the impact of influences. I know you were talking about impressions. So I realized how true that is. Like when you have an impression and then it kind of dictates how you see something like through the duration of your life. Like you always have that impression with you.
Exactly. And what is the conclusion that you're making? If the impression is so powerful, what can you do to work to what can you do? Like how can you influence that process to make it work for you, not against you?
Mhm. Um, you need to focus like on like clearing your mind more, like through what, as you said, through learning about knowledge about like the spiritual and like chanting more to kind of clear those like negative um impressions of like the material world on you.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a very good answer. Exactly. So you need to focus on the purification, right? But then what to do with life?
Mhm.
Because life creates multiple impressions every
Yeah.
second, every minute. As soon as you like, you know, just start acting, that's it, and the impressions begin. So how can we make that process work for us so that we don't become, slaves of those impressions? Because you're right, they're going to dictate in the future. What do you think we can do?
Do you have any ideas or nowadays?
Ah,
Do you have any ideas? Okay. I don't know what is your question. I think
mm-hmm.
um sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah,
It
yes.
happened.
So we're speaking about the freedom of choice, right?
Mhm.
So first thing is the circumstances that happen to us. We don't expect them. And second thing, it's our choice. What we actually put ourselves under, how we allow ourselves, what kind of influence actually we choose, right? If, for example, if I know if I go to that shop and it's dirty and it will create a negative impression on me. So I'm not going to do shopping in that place. I'll better go into a
Mhm.
different place, right? Or, for example, you know that certain people get together in a certain place and it's a good gathering, and maybe after talking to them, you're going to feel more energy, more happiness, more motivation, right? You can choose that.
Mhm.
While if there is an invite to the place or to the event where probably after which you may feel drained because you kind of know you have some knowledge, right, about personalities there and etc.
Yeah.
So you may choose. So we may use our freedom of choice wisely. That's
Yeah.
how we can, yeah, because through our actions, we're gonna get ourselves into these situations that gonna leave that impressions on us, and we can choose what impressions we want and what impressions we don't want. Like it relates to movies, programs,
Mhm.
studies, right? Food, music, people, even nature, even like places that we visit, everything. Yeah, because everything is recorded. All impressions are recorded through our senses. What we hear, what we see, what we touch, what we smell, what we taste. Everything leaves an impression. Yeah, but it's very, very good point. Yeah, about impression.
Mhm.
You have any questions or maybe any other realizations?
I liked when we're talking about how you can't get over something just by like willpower, and it takes you have to accept it first. You can't just say like, yeah, I got over it. That's not gonna do anything.
Exactly. And probably you know the term for this. It's widely used in psychology and communications.
Denial.
Yeah. So, and the opposite to denial would be what?
Acceptance.
Yeah.
Acceptance. Yeah. And that acceptance, it comes from either empathy or sympathy, right?
Mhm.
So empathy allows us to feel the emotion of another person and accept it. Sympathy doesn't allow us to feel, right? But it allows us to accept. Because some people cannot feel, but it doesn't mean that we cannot accept it. If I don't feel the same pain, doesn't mean I cannot accept it, right? That you feel it, that you're experiencing it. So yeah, therefore, that's also a very important thing about ourselves to give us ourselves that acceptance and empathy and understanding in
Yeah.
order to move in a direction where we want to go instead of blocking ourselves, right?
Yeah.
By sabotaging or yeah. Okay, that's a good point.
I also liked when you talked about like how emotions are not like created from like the event or the actual thing that takes place, but more on your reaction. So how you're actually reacting and processing something compared to what actually happens. Because when you're in that moment, you think, oh, like, why did this happen to me? Or why did this have to happen? But it's really how you're reacting to it and how.
Exactly. Yes, yes. And how that reaction can become like can generate an action, right? Yes. And then I would even ask you, a following, like as a follow-up question, how do you think you can break that circle of action and reaction? Like, for example, if that reaction causes some action that is not good for you, you don't want it, right? So how can you break that circle? What can you do?
Maybe
Huh?
Nadia.
maybe like realizing that that like that's something greater than just like what you're actually experiencing, that it's not like I don't know, like
Maybe change your reaction.
change your reaction
Yeah.
or interpret it differently, like create new um
Habits.
yeah, create new habits in your mind of how to deal with certain things so that in the future you don't repeat like the same emotions that you experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So can we actually use that change your reaction, but can we change our reaction? We spoke about it, right?
No.
No, we cannot change our reaction, but what we can do is to create, accept, right? As you said, accept on a mental and emotional level that I want to change, first of all, and then secondly, start practicing a different process.
Yeah.
But that samskara that you're not practicing will becoming weaker and weaker. And the new samskara that you're creating for your action will become stronger and stronger. So with
Yeah.
time, right, the new samskara will become stronger and it will be new habit. And the other habit that was creating this circle of, that reaction and action thing will become weaker. Yeah, that's the process. Cool. Yeah. So, if you have any other questions or realizations, or do you think we can end here?
No, Nadia, do you have any?
No. Okay.
You didn't share any. Nothing? Okay.
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 Okay, perfect. So I hope you enjoyed it. Did you
Yeah.
enjoy the presentation? Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So when would you like to meet again? Is it
I
Um,
think Mondays at this time works, if it works for you.
Yeah, Mondays work. So would you like to be on a weekly basis or bi-weekly? How would you like it?
we can do either or.
I think, what do you think would work better with your schedules?
Yeah,
Bi-weekly? Maybe bi-weekly, just because we're like kind of busy with school now. But
Okay.
I'm sure you're busy too. So.
bi-weekly would work.
Yeah.
Great.
So bi-weekly will work for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so every other week, not every week, every other week. All right. Okay. So since we didn't start reading Bhagavad Gita, how do you feel if we begin next Monday, and then I will give you a 2 week break. No, not break, like to read, to reconcile basically, right? And then we will follow that schedule.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay. And if you have, for next class, if you can bring Bhagavad Gita, maybe you can have you have one Bhagavad Gita or you have how
We
many?
have 3.
You have 3, right? Okay, wonderful. And japa beats. So we will be
Yeah.
practicing mantra meditation together. All right.
Okay, thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you
Wonderful.
so
Thank you for your
much.
time.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye. Mm.